Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Maqbool with you at PTV World. In today's show, we will be taking a look at the recent developments in the country, of course, with reference to the PTI chairman and the former Prime Minister and the incidents of May 9th. There is a lot of conversation going on as to the kind of impact that has on the political party and that can possibly have on the PTI chairman as well. A number of PTI workers and leaders, including top officials of the party, have decided to quit and have also made the announcements publicly referring to May 9th incidents as being something that they don't agree with and that they need to part ways with the political party. This is an important development in what some may be talking about is a way to dismember the political party and as a consequence of what is going on in the country. At the same time, we also know that there is strict action being taken against the miscreants of May 9th, and it is important to note that both the Prime Minister and the military leadership are on the same page regarding that. With the cabinet also sitting and discussing regarding the issues surrounding the establishment of military courts and how this procedure is going to go forward with the reference of the Army Act and the anti-terrorism courts as well. Something which some quarters seem to also be criticizing in terms of how this needs to move forward and the importance of civil courts and that to be carried forward with regards to civilian trials. But in fact, when we take a look at the entire context of the situation, perhaps there's more variables at play as well, including political ones, and how the responsibility and consequences are going to be established with the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf as well, and what this means for them. At the same time, we know that the Parliament, of course, has also publicly talked about their trust deficit and the lack of credibility with the Supreme Court and the benches, even the Chief Justice, with a motion also passing in the National Assembly a couple of days earlier regarding a reference against him. So it's important to know that whatever legal avenues or procedures are also being proceeded with also have a huge question mark on them in terms of their moral credibility. So we're going to be taking a look at what this means and of course, what is going to move forward. We also saw that finally there was also a condemnation coming in from the PTI chairman after much criticism with regards to May 9th and the attack on Jinnah House, saying that that was a disgrace to the country. But again, the leader is coming under a lot of criticism with regards to how late this conversation is going on and how various other PTI leaders, including the top leaders, also were not mentioned by him till just now. So we're going to be taking a closer look at the recent developments of the country and what this means for the politics of PTI and then of course with regards to the country as well. For this and more, as always in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi, and we've also been joined online by our guests, Mr. Usama Khawar, Ghumman, law professor at LUMS and advocate High Court of Pakistan. We've also been joined by Ms. Batool Rajput, who's a journalist. Thank you very much for joining us and being a part of the discussion. And let me start with you first, Ms. Batool. With reference to what is going on, there seems to be a lot of questions being raised as to the future of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, particularly also talking about how closely that is linked to an individual, which is of course the PTI chairman, and how previously it was said that this was a red line that cannot be crossed, but again it has, and even then we see that it's perhaps backfiring towards the party rather than having any other impact. What do you think about the way that this is playing out for Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and how it's going to impact them in the future?
Actually, it is certainly very damaging for Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. After no confidence motion, it was very evident that things are gradually going in favor of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. But with the passage of time, we saw that the absolute changes of narrative by Imran Khan, the continuous U-turns. It literally did nothing to PTI because the followers of PTI, they only trust one individual, and when we say PTI, it is Imran Khan. And it is very alarming to say, and it is a reality, that if Imran Khan goes away, if Imran Khan disappears, PTI will be it will be fragmented. It will be in pieces, and because the voter of PTI is not ready to absorb anybody else as PTI chairman except Imran Khan. And when we talk about damage, the recent damage that PTI has done to itself, and the proofs are available on social media, irrespective of what Imran Khan says, that irrespective of the fact that whatever he says, that we are not responsible of what happened in Lahore, who was responsible for setting the building of Radio Pakistan on fire, why the military installations they were set ablaze, who was responsible for all of this. It doesn't stand anywhere until unless we see and talk about the proofs and how do they unfold in future. And we cannot ignore the and we cannot forget the video of Yasmin Rashid just convincing and casually talking to her colleagues that we should go to Jinnah House together, and we should go there and we should not waste our time right here. So I think these small pieces of videos, whether they're edited or whatever kind of the stuff that is available on social media, it is evident that it is going against Pakistan Tehreek Insaf. Even this is very interesting that a few weeks earlier, the position of president was very interesting. Whenever he used to give a statement or whenever he would give an interview, he would behave like president of a party. But I think his recent statement, in which he said that Pakistan Tehreek Insaf does not support these kind of activities, and Imran Khan has to condemn whatever happened on May 9th. And Imran Khan did, but I think the way he said it, the way he uh, the way he tried to take responsibility was not very impressive, because while standing in the court, he was told by the court to stop his followers and convince them to not come with him to court, or to behave as miscreants, or to plan anything disastrous like this, that like we saw on 9th May. Imran Khan replied very casually, and he said that whenever I'm caught, this is the reaction, and I cannot stop it. But surprisingly, the court said at that very time that you have to stop it. Anyways, you have to stop it. So I think if I'm not wrong, reportedly 7,000 people belonging to PTI, they are arrested. According to PTI, it's 7,000. The number is 7,000, and I'm not counting the top elite leadership of PTI. So this is a very discouraging number for Pakistan Tehreek Insaf. If this number of PTI gets into jail, and Imran Khan does not even mention their name, like I'm sure you have seen the wife of Fawad Chaudhry, in which she said that Imran Khan did not mention the name of Fawad Chaudhry while raising voice for his other colleagues. But the way his other colleagues like Azhar Bashwani defended Imran Khan, it is considerable too. But I think Imran Khan is trying to get rid of all the situation that was created, and whatever happened on May 9th. And but unfortunately, he won't be able to he won't be able to be
Right.
relaxed in this political turmoil.
Right,
Yes.
absolutely. I understand that point. And Farrukh, of course, after much criticism and a lot of talk, we saw finally the condemnation also coming in. And of course, with regards to the attack on Jinnah House, he also said it's a disgrace to the country. But in terms of where he stands today, and the kind of arrests that are being made with reference to PTI workers, even those from Zaman Park that are being claimed as terrorists that have contacts with the PTI leadership or have fled the residence of the former Prime Minister. How exactly will this condemnation even feature in this, or the kind of value that it'll hold? Will it still help in saving face?
Not at all, Sana. Let me ask you a very simple question. This condemnation seems like Schrodinger's apology, right? One minute it is there, the next minute it is not. I condemn whatever happened, but our people did not do it, your people did it, right? With that kind of flooding of public square, with all kind of speculative garbage, of course, this is how conspiracy theories have been working in Pakistan, and now they dominate all over the world. It is a throwback to the days when violent terror was at its peak. Terrorists were attacking Pakistani installations, Pakistani people. At that time also, the Taliban apologists, which incidentally included PTI, kept on telling you that Taliban cannot do it, somebody else is doing it, and then because of drones there is really bad sentiment, and every aspect of it had an apology to it. And then they would say that somebody else is doing it, maybe it is foreigners, maybe this country or that country. But in the end, when they were asked to condemn the event, they wouldn't even muster up that kind of support, that kind of courage. Why? Because then they knew that the people that they are supporting by obfuscating the facts are in fact their own supported people. So right now what you're looking at is Imran Khan Sahab keeps on, I mean there was pressure on him, everybody was actually looking at him, even the president of Pakistan who actually came from his party said that he should condemn. But Imran Khan Sahab's response was, yes, I condemn, but we did not do it, and let us investigate. And who should investigate it? A commission headed by the judges who have been giving me all the relief that is possible under the sun. So at this moment it is clear that Imran Khan Sahab knows what has happened. He does not want to surrender that card, because tomorrow once again he can be apprehended, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, whenever. I am not specific on a date, but he can be apprehended. Then he will need the same supporters to go out and actually wreak havoc again. Remember when Imran Khan Sahab was in custody, his interviews were that I am sitting here, I cannot control them. The moment I go out, I can control them, right? And then we saw that when he was momentarily detained by the police in the High Court, at that time he once again gave call for further protest, and then police actually released him. So that means Imran Khan Sahab knows that whatever happened was his own supporters. He cannot alienate them, because alienating them right now would mean that he actually surrenders an important card that he plans to use again and again. And May 9th, Sana, make no mistakes. I mean, state of Pakistan is very clear. Well, state of Pakistan minus the like-minded judges, may they be in Islamabad, may they be in Supreme Court. One gentleman keeps on mimicking the Chief Justice of Pakistan, and then the Lahore High Court as well, where the Chief Justice of Pakistan's son-in-law, not the Chief Justice of Pakistan, but Punjab, his son-in-law used to be a very influential minister in the cabinet of Punjab CM under PTI. So with that kind of a situation, of course, these guys might not agree, but the state knows that May 9th was essentially a coup attempt which failed. When a coup attempt fails, Sana, then you are at the mercy of the victors. So this is exactly what is happening. And no matter how much in denial these people remain, I had only one concern regarding Zaman Park today also, because we have seen in the past that the mysterious incidents have happened. When you remember that Imran Khan Sahab and Tahir Qadri had called off their protest in Islamabad, at that time Model Town happened. So I was afraid that there might not have happened something similar, and that might actually give a cause for further manipulation by PTI. But this sanity with which Punjab police, especially Lahore police, conducted the matter is laudable, and that will ensure. And by the way, on May 9th also, the desire was that we burn your houses down, and then you will push back and you will fire at us. When you don't, when you do, we will take the bodies and start protesting. That didn't happen, again because of sanity. And that's how we are here, where the attempt has failed.
Right. And let me also welcome in the discussion Mr. Usama has just joined us with regards to, of course, the talk around the issue of consequence and the way that the entire process regarding those who have been involved in May 9th incidents is evolving. There is talk of whether or not military courts should even be used in this circumstance or not, and there seems to be differing opinion about it. So I would also like to know what you think in terms of whether or not this is a necessary step and the right way to go forward. And secondly, with regards to how we move forward in terms of establishing accountability and the kind of language that is being used and the claims with regards to terrorists being holed up in Zaman Park, or that they have been in contact with the PTI leadership, how will that play out then for a political party in the country if it is being accused of, or if it is supporting terrorists or providing them shelter? You'll have to unmute yourself, Usama. We can't hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Sana and Pitafi sir, for a very learned comments. So, Sana, I think the real tragedy is that of this farce that has been going on for last several years, I would say, for ever since this hybrid experiment started, the real victims of entire this tragedy are the people of the Pakistan, and even of this episode as well. You would see that common people who had been misguided, ordinary citizens, by the leadership. And it is those people and our political process and our politics which is suffering as a result of these myopic agendas and a very sort of instrumentalized version of politics which is very cynical in nature. So going to what there are several consequences which are some are going to be short term, but then others are going to be long term. And most of these consequences they do not look very good for our polity and our constitutional system, rule of law. And I'll let me lay out why. So, for example, issue of military court. Military courts, they historically they are established under the Army Act. Historically, we have partialized the common criminal law, then there's the partialization. So in previous round, we saw that there was anti-terrorism code, and there was 21st Amendment, the ones who were fighting war on terror. We saw that there was legislature felt there was a need for specialized courts and to try civilians in those courts. There had to be a constitutional amendment. So we saw that first there was the 21st Amendment back in, I guess, 2015 then, and a further extension was given for 2 more years with a sunset clause later on. So both of those amendments, they have expired, but it was an extraordinary situation. What we are seeing right now, Sana, is this, that there's a threat and it might happen that the civilians are going to be tried under, and this is going to have real consequences for civil liberties, rule of law, so on and so forth. And the other, I think, as the law stands today, my understanding is that the civilians they can be tried under military act. It is another question that constitutionally now since there has been right to fair trial. So in 2010 we had this massive amendment, which was 18th Amendment, and after 18th Amendment there has been inserted right to fair trial, which is Article 10A of the Constitution. And there are fundamental issues which are recognized all over the world with that they are manned by military officials, they are being denied, and the process is very opaque. Not, so for this reason, historically they are only reserved for military personnel because of the reason for the discipline. So there hasn't been any valid constitutional challenge under Article 10A, so we'll see what the courts say. So as the law stands, so let me read, I make this distinction what is and what ought to be. So my reading, very humble reading of the law is of Military Army Act, especially Section 2. The civilians, if they attack military installations or some other sensitive buildings, they can be tried. And I think an arguable case can be made that perhaps the trials could be conducted. It is another question whether that law as it stands, is it going to withstand constitutional challenge thrown under Article 10A, so on and so forth. So I think in coming days it's going to be very tough. And political parties like say it with great reverence, the political parties should realize that the government had enacted Anti-Terrorism Act. The same Prime Minister was convicted under the same act in Tiara hijacking case. This has happened over and over again. In the recent past, we saw PICA, Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act. Later on, the political leadership of the same party was persecuted in a long reign of terror by the same act. So political parties and our political leadership should be beware of that. There no doubt the PI and misguided, but is this are they are we in a war situation? Because if a precedent is settled in coming years, you never know, Sana, and that's a great tragedy of this country. You never know when the prosecutors might be persecuted and persecutors. So the equation can flip very easily in this land of pure. So in that sense, I think it's the events of past few days have been really really sad, because they are going to have the ramifications for our legal process, constitutionalism, the nature of democracy. And I would end this long rant by quoting Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, German philosopher, and Pitafi sir would appreciate. So he famously said, while, yes, Pitafi sir, he said, while fighting with monsters, let's beware that you do not become a monster. If you stare long at abyss stares back at you. So this we should learn from the ages, wisdom of ages and wise men like Nietzsche and CK, while fighting with this monster that was created by this hybrid regime, by the guardians of our national interest. And with do we want to become that monster? Thank you.
With regards to, of course, what is being discussed, Ms. Batool, it's important, of course, for us to understand what sort of principles do we need in terms of enhancing the system and the processes as well. At the same time, we also know that there is a lot of discussion around justice, around the need for us to talk about accountability or consequence. But at the same time, again, it's important to be able to strike that balance, whether or not that's actually happening. In terms of what you know of the Parliament and the judiciary and the current issues with the benches, do you think that perhaps has now taken a back burner, and the issues surrounding the consequences of May 9th is now being left to the military courts, also in part because of what is going on with the Supreme Court?
I believe that's true because today there was an important decision at Lahore High Court, and it said that the people or the political members, those primarily resigned from National Assembly, they are bound to go back to National Speaker Assembly, and they can communicate again, and they can re-discuss their issue of resignations. But now let's see that what is the reaction from the speaker, as he already said that he already accepted the resignations. So I believe this was a very important news today, but hardly any of us took up the issue because definitely the focus is on May 9th. And I really want to add another point, that we are talking about military courts here in Pakistan Army Act 1952. Now, see, in the society where we do see the distrust among institutions, only in that particular situation, the establishment or the particular institutions, they do call for military courts. As my colleague mentioned earlier, that in 2014 and 2015, there was an amendment, 21st Amendment, and because of which we could see the materialization of military courts. And there was a very there was a very unexpected and unprecedented situation at that time. At that time, we saw the APS attack, and the extension was there for 2 more years. But military courts is not something to be encouraged all the time. This is a parallel system, and democracy doesn't need it at all. But the point that I want to establish is that this is the mark of distrust. If Pakistan army, or if there is a trust between establishment and judicial system in Pakistan, this could we never wanted this. Nobody could have desired this kind of military course. But we have seen that anyhow Imran Khan has been given unprecedentedly protective bails in most of his cases. And on the other hand, we are seeing these frequent arrests, and this is so interesting to see that we see that there is an arrest, then there is a release, then there is a re-arrest. So what is going on exactly? It is beyond understanding. So this is very exposed, and the situation divulges this, that institutions, they are not at all coordinating with each other professionally. What one institution wants to do or is deciding, the other institution is completely unaware of this. So I think because of the lack of planning, undecisiveness, and this chaotic knee-jerk reaction approach, we are seeing this. But I believe that this is an international approach towards trial of civilians under military courts. That it is taken as something really authoritarian. This is not seen as a democratic approach towards the system. So I believe that we are not the institutions in Pakistan. They are not strong enough to debate on it, but at least they do realize this should not be happening. But unfortunately, the incidents that we saw on May 9th, nobody is ready to take responsibility of this. If Imran Khan could have taken the responsibility of the incident, even at that time, we could expect that maybe judicial system, Pakistan's regular judicial system, can take up the matter or can take a suo motu. Never surprisingly, we saw when Jinnah House was burning, when the building of Radio Pakistan was burning, when the military installations were burning, we saw no sumoto. So if the judicial system could have done any proactive approach or proactive move at that time, I think we could have easily got rid of this situation. But
Okay.
unfortunately, I think now it has become so dangerous that
Right.
at the level of top military brass, we are hearing that they are going to try civilian under military act. So I think this is something really dangerous for Pakistan, and I have no
Right.
idea that
Absolutely.
how we are going to cope with this.
Right, and we'll talk a bit more about that with Usama as well, with regards to what the courts should have done. And I'm glad you talked about the Lahore High Court's decision regarding the PTI MNAs as well, because Farrukh, I want to talk to you about this in more detail as well, in terms of the way that we have been hearing regarding the PTI being in line with terrorists or acting as a non-state actor, with the PTI chairman and his residence also being spoken about as a place which is seemingly a sanctuary for terrorists. And then of course the kind of actions of May 9th that are also that is also being blamed on the PTI. In terms of all of this, at the same time we also see that the court once again has spoken about regarding the PTI MNAs and their resignations. Irrespective of whatever legalities are concerned there, what do you think this is going to mean in terms of the kind of conversation that is coming from the military, from the political establishment, as to what PTI is preaching or where it stands, and the possibility of even talking to them seems to be very bleak now that we're drawing parallels with terrorism. So how will this actually play for the PTI? Does that give them any sort of margin to talk to the political leadership?
First of all, Sana, the biggest question that comes to mind is why would anyone who possesses sanity and who has been attacked consistently by PTI would want to talk to them now when their coup attempt has failed, right? Secondly, I mean, you also said that PTI is being blamed for May 9th. I mean, what was Ali Hamza doing in front of Corps Commander's house, and what exactly was the language he was using, right? Similarly, other leaders also, they have been actually passing incendiary statements. So it is clear what happened that day. I mean, you can have any kind of investigation if you want, because somehow it seems that in the past there used to be the question whether these issues can be taken up in a court of law. But now what Imran Khan Sahab wants is these issues to be taken up in the court of in-laws, Lahore High Court or Islamabad, Supreme Court of Pakistan. And regarding LHC's statement, verdict today, and also this question about military courts as well. Do you know why we are where we are? Because this Supreme Court of Pakistan, by dividing itself and by playing politics one within its own ranks, and then overreaching specifically when it came to the jurisdiction of the parliament, has actually tarnished its own image. Remember what happened on May 9th is being called by many people as Pakistan's 9/11, others are calling it PTI's 9/11. And then of course, one thing is clear, that all the institutions that actually democratic institutions are actually lying in a heap of rubble right now. We'll have to rebuild it. So my concern is not about any precedents that are being created right now, because in the past 1 year, the amount of crazy, precedents that were created by Supreme Court, certain high courts, now as I pointed out that there is a justice sitting in Islamabad High Court, and he keeps on making statements which surely get him the kind of limelight I think he wants. But with that kind of an attitude, the judiciary of Pakistan, particularly superior judiciary, has made itself irrelevant. Remember, a few days ago, Maulana Fazlur Rahman came to Islamabad, and suddenly we saw a kind of change of tone, if not change of heart, in the communication of the Chief Justice of Pakistan, right? That was Maulana Fazlur Rahman. He is a head of a political party, a religious movement, but that has its limits. If you are to be confronted by the hard state of the country, pray tell me what exactly is going to happen, right? Will you be able to take the pressure that might come? Earlier, the biggest problem was, and let me actually, if we have time, let me use an allegoric reference, and that is about Khalifa or Caliph Harun Rashid, right? He used to go to Friday prayers, and one day he found a madman sitting outside. Usually in culture, it was considered that those people have direct access to God, but they are wasted outside because of their love for God. So the madman is building something, and the caliph goes and says, "What are you building?" He says that I'm building, a palace in heaven, right? And the caliph says, "How much will you charge for it if I want to buy it?" He says 10,000 dinars, right? And the caliph laughs it off and walks off, right? He offers prayers, goes back home and sleeps. At night he sees a dream that there is a palace, humongous palace in heaven, and he asks who does it belong to, and they say to that madman. Next day he makes a point of going back to the madman and says that I am ready to give you 10,000 dinars. He says, "What happened?" He narrates his dream. Then the madman says, and he is evidently not that crazy, that now I need your kingdom and another kingdom of equal size. The caliph says, "Why?" He says, "Because now you have seen proof," right? This whole idea of somebody being able to stage a coup in the country and cause a civil war, everybody kept on betting on various horses. And these people kept on betting on horses which have actually lost the game. So now, should they not be facing consequences? Actions have consequences. So for the courts, especially the like-minded court, it is going to be irrelevance. By the way, nobody was talking about LHC verdict, a Large Hadron Collider or whatever that means throughout the day. But nobody was debating that at all. Why? Because of irrelevance. No matter what you do, the parliament is not going to take it lying down, right?
Yeah.
It is the speaker's decision, whatever he does, otherwise you are overreaching once again. So in all this context, I think Imran Khan Sahib is making himself irrelevant, but so is the judiciary.
Right, and I'd like to talk about that a bit more with Usama as well. First, Usama, please also shed light on the point raised earlier by Ms. Batool regarding why the courts didn't proactively seek any sort of measure, suo moto, in terms of what has happened on May 9th. And secondly, also with regards to the Lahore High Court's verdict and the fact that it is upon the Speaker's discretion, what sort of value will it hold, and any sort of legal possibility that can exist now in terms of this particular verdict. And if not, and if this is an overreach, as Farrukh said, then what can the Parliament be doing in terms of any action against this?
Uh, Thank you, Sana. So, Sana, two distinct points. A, after this, let's say, 15 years of judicial activism, starting from Iftikhar Mohammed Chaudhry, I have become thoroughly disillusioned, and I have come to agree with the wisdom of political science, who had studied judicial activism thoroughly, that it is not a place for the judiciary to to proactively get itself involved in politics. So, if the principle that we are advocating is that it is not their domain to get involved in this in the politics, and we have seen that how a chief justice, coupled with some of the like-minded judges, rig, helped rig the hybrid regime, an election back in 2018. It was very systematic rigging, and it would not have been possible without a hyperactive, what we call judicially activist judiciary. So, in that sense, if that is the principle, it does not matter if the judiciary is being activist for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. The principle is that this is not their job. They should focus on their judicial work, which is adjudication of disputes brought before them. They should not be going out to fishing for disputes. So, if that is the principle, then I don't think we should have taken any suo moto notice on May 9th, because uh, that is ultimately a matter which is best dealt by the executive arm of the state. So they had no concern. That brings me to the second point, that that I stand on this aspect with the parliament. That the parliament is absolutely right. In Persian, what we say, "Der ay durust ay." It has taken a parliament at least 15 years of activist judiciary. The parliament has finally stood up to judiciary. Parliament and our political class had shown again and again great spine against military dictatorships, and also some of the civilian dictatorships we have seen in this country. And the political class has collectively come together. The people, the great people of Pakistan, have come together. They struggled for a long time, and they have always at the end kicked out, booted out military dictatorships. In that sense, Pitafi sir would appreciate, and viewers too, that we have seen Pakistan is a very unique country in that sense, that we have not seen very long bouts of dictatorships. We don't have any Hosni Mubarak or Ben Ali, or what you saw even in Latin America, long periods of dictatorship, 20, 30, 40 years, and what we have right across the border now, what is going to almost win the third term, what we have in Erdogan. So in Pakistan, if one of our enduring sort of quality, and that is the resistance that the people have shown, and they do not even bear these dictators for too long, and after 5, 6 years cycles, they kick them out, and they kick them out brutally. So, but this is a historic moment that the parliament, perhaps because of some sort of these democratic struggles, we have respected by and large the judiciary, despite the fact that the judiciary in those critical moments have always sided with the dictatorships, whether in bureaucratic dictatorships that we saw in the first decade after the partition of Ghulam Muhammad and Skandar Mirza, or the military dictatorship starting from Maulvi Tamizuddin and Boso case, and all the way to recent times. What we saw in 2018 was was a hybrid experiment and initially became a B team of it. But politicians, they have given respect and finally they have stood up, and I think it's to be appreciated, and
Okay.
I am all with it.
All right. Ms. Batool, with regards to the future of PTI, there's also this criticism coming in that the party centers around the PTI chairman, and the chairman also came under criticism regarding, as you said earlier as well, not talking about the party's senior leaders, but in fact only referring to himself or his wife and the kind of threats that exist. And so a lot of that, and also the kind of dismembership that we're seeing coming in from within the party, points towards perhaps the strength just coming in a sense of towards one individual. And it seems that there's also discussion around the impact it's going to have on the PTI chairman and not the party, or perhaps both. Do you think that there is any party without the PTI chairman, and if one is out of the equation, the other can survive?
Frankly, I don't see any party without PTI chairman, and this is a very prominent fact. It has been a very prominent fact that whenever it comes to PTI, it's only Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. It is an individual party, and because of I think because of the way Imran Khan did politicking inside his party, the way there has been no intra-party elections, the way he distributed tickets, the way nobody encountered him when it came to making decisions, and whoever criticized him, and frankly, he has bad advisors. He has written a book in his biography. Probably, I think it was written after 2008, and it is at least 8 to 10 years old book. So I remember in that book, if you read that book, you can very easily understand Imran Khan's personality. That he's very he's into himself, and he always lives in a moment of glory, and he's not a good listener. So I think whatever decisions he made the decisions without being realistic, and he made the decisions while being in moment of glory, and he only likes those individuals who actually put good words into his ear about himself. So he doesn't like criticism. It's an open fact that he doesn't like criticism.
Okay.
And if he would have liked it, if he would have accepted criticism with open heart and mind, he could not have made this mistake of making Usman Buzdar Punjab CM. He could never have sent reference against Justice Isa. He could never have offered General Bajwa an extension. So I think it will be a one-man party. It will be in one-man army. But I
Okay.
think this will not be very surprising, because when PNA was dismembered, it came out as ANP. When
Okay.
there was a split in PMLN, it came out as PMLQ. Then we saw another King's Party. Then we saw Pakistan Patriot, and then we saw other
Absolutely.
groups.
I understand your point that it's happened before, and it can happen possibly again. Unfortunately, we're out of time, so I'm going to quickly get Farrukh's insight as well before we conclude the show. Yes,
I
Farrukh.
just very quickly wanted to clarify 2 points. One,
Okay.
your question about PTI minus Imran Khan. I think Batul is right. Batul Sahib is right when she says that this party is about him. But then every party in Pakistan is about one man, PMLN. When Mian Nawaz Sharif went out of politics, his party started actually having turbulence. Similarly, People's Party, when Mohtarma was assassinated, the party actually, people say it overperformed, I think it underperformed. Mohtarma's presence would have ensured that it could garner more votes, right? Similar, now the party is reviving because of Bilawal. But this is how it is. The point is that Imran Khan Sahab has many failings. I used to praise certain things as well, but there is no point because he has lost. If his own party members cannot stand with him, why should anybody else? Now, regarding what Ghumman Sahab was saying, and that is quite interesting as well, he actually, because he mentioned me and that I would approve, let me tell you, I've been also glorifying the democratic nature of our country, that no dictatorship can last beyond 11 years, right? But then pray tell me what happens to democracy. Why is it that none of the prime ministers in this country have gone beyond 3 years? So the problem lies with the instability, maybe not our democratic credentials.
Right, absolutely. Thank you very much, Farrukh. Thank you, Mr. Usama, for joining us. Thank you, Ms. Batool Rajput, for being a part of the discussion as well. That's all that we have from the debate. We'll see you now on Monday. Have a nice weekend.